Hello everyone, welcome to the Tech Podcast series. This is Lakshit Pant, your host for today, and we are having one special guest with us today, Alibek here, who is Microsoft MVP, and he has been doing incredible in the community. The aim of this podcast is to help throughout your journey so that you can just learn from the experiences of experts like Alibek. So I just like to give the stage to Alibek. Alibek, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, first of all, thank you very much for having me here. It's a great pleasure to be on this podcast. My name is Alibek. I'm a data scientist at Expertime, is a French-based software company, and I'm also a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional (MVP) for AI since 2019.
Yeah, that's a great intro, and yeah, definitely. So he, as you have heard about, he has been doing working as a data scientist. His experience has been incredible. Helmik, I just wanted to know, like, you have started in your career as a software engineer, then you just switched to data scientist. So why this switch? So is just about the just because of the technical shift or the trend shift you have switched to data scientist from a software engineer, or what was the reason of your shifting to the data scientist?
Very good question because my journey in data science started all by haphazard. Because after finishing the International IT University in Almaty, as a and I have as a major computer science and software engineering, I won a French government scholarship in 2016, and I joined the master program in French engineering school, which is called SciTech. So my major was smart systems, so it's everything related to the Internet of Things, communication networking protocols, mobile development, and just software engineering as in general. And I also joined Expertime, the company I'm currently working at, as a software engineering intern. And during my internship, we actually were faced with some challenges in getting client data, but also in presenting the client's data, because the goal of the project was not at all related to machine learning or anything like this. The main goal was just to present the data and to show how Azure data pipelines work, like Data Factory, and with a final visualization in Power BI. But for my report, because at school I had a report to deliver after my internship. I started just after working hours, just all by myself. I started constructing a linear regression, just because I found it really challenging and also interesting and suitable to add to my final report. So I constructed a linear regression, and during the demo day after the main presentation, I just asked my manager if I could just share results of my research with the client, and he said okay. It was a go, and I just showed them it was a success. And so just right after the meeting with the client, my manager said that, well, you're a data scientist now. And so completely by haphazard, I started to working with data science tools. And as my company is a Microsoft partner, of course, all the data science tools I used at the very beginning was on Azure. And of course, after that, I started also utilizing open source tools. And right now, my main goal is actually to facilitate the integration of machine learning into client solutions, not only based on Azure, but mainly with this, because Azure is an incredible tool, allowing to have your hands on both infrastructure, web services, and also machine learning facilities. So it's incredibly facilitates the task of integrating machine learning into client solutions.
Mentioned about the open source. So for those who are listening to this podcast, what was the best way according to you you will suggest to get started with the open source, and why one should contribute to the open source world?
Well, I guess that the best way in general, not only with data science, the best way to start learning something is to start with a concrete problem. And so in my case, it was quite straightforward because I already had a client problem that I needed to solve. And so for some reasons, certain clients were not completely Azure, or just prefer having all their solutions on-prem. So
Mm.
it was actually an obligation to start using open source. And well, we can still use still using open source along with Microsoft Azure. Like for instance, for any solution based on computer vision, you'll definitely use such libraries as OpenCV because it's a base. So it's open source, and it's in the heart of all the computer vision solutions. So there is actually, for me, there is no choice. Like, I'm going open source, I'm using purely Azure, because Azure to Microsoft loves open source. So a lot of libraries are easily integrated into Azure Machine Learning Studio, and
Yes,
also, for example, Azure Custom Vision allows exporting your trained models in
yes,
TensorFlow or ONX formats.
yes. So, those who you are working as a data scientist, and I would really love to explore what data scientist looks like. Was the real so which areas in your company a data scientist focuses? How can you tell us a little bit about a data scientist's work in a company or a role in a company?
Yes, so mainly as a data scientist, your main job is to understand the business problem of your clients. So you definitely spend a certain amount of your time on the calls, on the client calls, like 35, 30% of your time is on the client calls, because your goal is to understand whether the AI is suitable for this or that client needs. But also, you do need to spend some time coding, and this is where my software engineering background helps me a lot, because what I do notice that in our domain, there are a lot of because as it's quite recent, data science as a profession. So right now, data science is steadily turning into a craftsmanship. So the best practices are currently being developed, like for instance MLOps, all the data integration pipelines, model deployment pipelines, etc., and even other things like unit tests, or code review policies, etc. So you definitely spend a lot of time coding, and also even more time reviewing your own code. And finally, there is also a huge part of your role as a data scientist is in a data representation, because in some cases you also need to deliver a Power BI a dashboard, maybe in Power BI or any solution like this, uh, to actually show your clients some actionable insights. But in certain cases, when your client has already a technical team, like backend developers in front of you, so in most of the cases you deliver also a well documented API with your model behind, and you actually explain what it takes as input and what it gives as output. So if to sum up, there is a huge amount of communication with your clients, and you as a data scientist, you are one of the key communicators in your team. There is also a huge amount of software development, because as I said before, so as the role of a data scientist is steadily turning into craftsmanship. So you start implementing best practices in your role, in your work, and also there is a deployment. We could say there's a deployment in data visualization step. So you need to actually deliver the result of your work, because at the end of the day, client doesn't really care of what the model you use. The only thing that matters for him is whether he can get any actionable insight from his data.
Okay, so that's a great insight about the data scientists and about their role and all those. All so we have a pretty diverse community in India here who are just going to listen to this podcast in future when we'll publish it. So I would like to know. So I have seen when it comes to the data scientists, beginners who are just getting started, who are just getting fascinated about this so-called term data scientist. So what they do is basically running after competitions, just getting their rank, just keeping themselves in the rank up in the Kaggle and all these participating in all these coding competitions, competitive coding, and not putting on the project side, not learning the right stuff that they have to do as a data scientist. So, what you will prefer, Alibek? Like, is the project-based learning is the right thing, or should they should follow the competitive coding is also one of the playback here.
Well, this is kind of tricky question because in my case, it started by on the project side. So I had a concrete client project, and I needed to solve it with the mean that I had, and so data science was kind of an obvious solution for me. So it was on a concrete project on client project. But I do believe that competitions like Kaggle are one of the greatest way to start from, because you start on the real competitions. And also which is also important is the community, because you on Kaggle you can have discussions, you can have some communications with the other developers from all over the world, and which actually allows you to see how your code can turn into something tangible. And for beginners, I would suggest taking part in the competitions, and after that switching to the client projects to and also I do believe that it is important to keep learning and keep taking part into open source projects, because for me as an MVP, it's kind of obvious solution. So I do love open source projects, and even it's only 2 lines of codes that has been accepted in your pull request, it's always a great way also to first of all to brush up your skills, because well, you know that in a data science role, you're not necessarily using all the algorithms
Yeah.
all day long, because maybe some algorithms are more popular than other ones, and at the end of the day, you actually start forgetting them. And so to brush up your skills, your knowledge on this or this matter, I do believe that taking part into open source project is a great way to show competitions and client projects, and also keep improving your skills.
Yeah, definitely. So, guys, Alibek has given you the right, pathway. So you can just follow that, and you can just definitely sharp your skills. It's all about learning in technical word. You have to upskill yourself every day, because if you are not, then definitely you will just lag behind somewhere. Because every day the technology is evolving. Something is changing every day. Now, this is a very fundamental question we get in the community a lot. It's about the language. What language one should start with before getting started with AI, machine learning things, or about the cloud computing stuff, about the Microsoft Azure. So any tech stack. So what language they should start with?
Yeah, that's a great question indeed. Because me, I started from Java because I was a software developer, and in my company I switched to .NET because, as I said before, I joined Expertime as a software developer. So I did code a lot on .NET and Java, and after I started doing machine learning, so I started with R, and then I turned to switch to Python language. And right now, I guess that 100% of my time, working time, I'm doing the code in Python, obviously, because uh, first of all, the main advantage of using Python is a very rich code base. There is a tremendous number of libraries packages that are already well documented and developed and being supported by the huge community. Um, and I also do believe that learning C++ is very important. Um, to be honest, I hadn't had such an opportunity to work directly with C++ while working with machine learning libraries. Only once, I guess, when I worked with Jetson Nano, because because we needed to implement a computer vision project on Jetson Nano, and at the time using Python, OpenCV, and TensorFlow was not this good, because the video was not quite fluent. We had something like 5 FPS on Jetson Nano, and when I started using C++ for exactly the same problem, uh, it was way faster, like 35 FPS, which is what was quite uh, what was a tremendous step forward. So I do believe that in certain cases, especially when you're working on edge, like using IoT, so C++ is a great solution. And for Azure developers, so I guess that Azure is Java friendly. Of course, Azure is .NET. Obviously, that is .NET friendly because so it's Microsoft after all, and Python is a good way to start. So I do suggest, well, it really depends on the background of a data scientist. I do believe that a data scientist starting from with a mathematical background, so the greatest way for him to start with would be Python or R, because well, it's all the scripting languages which allow to actually quickly test this or the hypothesis without having to deal with the code. And for software developers like myself, I would suggest starting with C++ because I do believe that in the nearest future, C++ well, data scientists with huge C++ background will be valuable professionals.
Okay, yeah. So, guys, I hope you guys understand what Alibek said just now. He has been switching all these languages and everything. So, this Mark has words that first learn one language and just totally depends on the project or the area, the background that you are working in, and it totally depends what kind of project in future you are getting. Definitely have to keep in your mind like what is going to be the trend and how is going to how the market shift is going and where your skills should align. But yeah, learning multiple languages could be a nice way to keep upskilling yourself. Now, Alibek, I just wanted to know about the certification part, like how important are the certifications really are the Microsoft Azure certifications.
Well, in my company, it's very important to have to keep your certifications up to date because, well, Microsoft is developing fast, and so you need to, well, actually to keep your skills up to date, and so each year we need to renew our certifications, and I do believe that certifications is a great way to get acquainted with the Azure ecosystem. Of course, you know that there are a lot of dumps on the internet, which allows you to actually just skim the questions and answers. Well, I do believe that the best way is actually to start with Microsoft Learn because each exam has a learning path going with it. So on Microsoft Learn, you can follow all that you can cover actually all the topics that you will have on your exam, and it is way better than skimming, just looking through the dumps and trying to memorize all the answers. Well, dump is not this bad because it actually allows you to have a path through all this huge amount of documentation available on the internet, and to actually keep one specific route. But Microsoft Learn is one of the greatest way to pass your certifications, and well, you should not underestimate the value of a certification, especially if you pass it honestly, like without using dumps. So without using dumps, you will be certified, and we also you'll be way better specialized the one who actually cheated on the exam and used dumps.
Yes, definitely. Cheating doesn't make any sense because it's
Exactly.
yeah, cheating on your exam doesn't make any sense. And if you do hold that certification while you will work on any company or any project, it will prove that you don't know anything and you definitely have cheated. One will get this experience from all these terms. Now about the certification, as he has mentioned, Microsoft Learn is the best tool. It's the official documentation is the best right tool to pass all the certification, and you should definitely follow that path. Now, Alibek, I just wanted to shift it more towards the community side. Like you have been MVP, and that's a phenomenal award, and that's a
Oh,
super great that you have achieved it, and I really congratulate you for that. And so in the community, I also deal with a lots of MVPs, and so they have some great experience. I just wanted to know how has been your experience being an MVP.
no, that's very kind of you. Thank you very much. For in my case, actually, I started contributing to community just for myself because I faced during my internship, especially as a software engineer with no background in data science, faced some tremendous issues in setting my solutions up and running. And I do remember that without practicing, you actually forget quickly all you learned. And well, for instance, say you get a project, so you've succeeded to set it up and running, and but 6 months later, you will not be able to reproduce exactly the same pipeline because you actually forget quite quickly. And it started with Docker containers because well, at that time it was quite challenging for me to create a web service within using Docker. So I decided to start blogging on it, and I was doing it for myself. It's like creating a public documentation of what you have done so far, providing some open source code on your GitHub, etc. And one positive aspect of that is actually because people do love showing off, and and when you show your code off, you actually try to make it look better, like
Yes,
providing unit tests, cleaning up your code,
yes,
and minimizing your functions, providing some useful comments and not redundant ones, etc., etc. And and finally, at the end of the day, this practice actually makes you a better developer. And in my case, so I created a blog where I started sharing every tip and trick I've learned on my main job. So after the work, every day or just 3 times a week, I used to actually to make a little summary of what I've done in a week, and with some useful tips and tricks, and started blogging. And also I've started replying to the questions on Stack Overflow. Well, you guys, you definitely know what it is. It's the
yes,
first place you start whenever you
yes,
face any issue, any challenge. So Stack Overflow. I do love Stack Overflow. So, and I felt that yeah, it's my turn to reply to the questions because I've used it a lot. Yeah, it saved me so many times when I had some challenges in running my solutions. So I started replying to the questions, and finally, as I started blogging and started publishing my code to GitHub, I also started starting some open source project, and there were some Microsoft open source projects. I just right now can't remember the name of those projects, but I've sent a lot of pull requests, just 10 or 9 pull requests, and only 2 of them has been accepted. But for all of these things, I guess I do believe, because I do not exactly for what I've been awarded the Microsoft MVP award, but I do believe that it's just it's all the contributions together, like publishing short articles on my personal blog, uh, replying to the questions on Stack Overflow, and participating to Microsoft's open source projects on GitHub, which allowed me to get this award.
yeah. That's great, and wherever you go, every part of this globe, you will hear this term from every developer, the Stack Overflow, the savior of every developer.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely, because it has saved everyone at once upon their life working when they are working. Now, as Alibek has mentioned about, to all the listeners, Alibek has really told a great hack about learning and about the blogging and stuff. So whatever you are learning, just share it, just give it a documented view so that you can just revise those concepts. It will really help you out. What have you learned, what have you covered, and it will also make a generated documented thing for the community also, so that they can also learn from those documentations. So learning, sharing what you learn is a really nice approach that Alibek has mentioned. So thank you, Alibek. Thank you for joining to this podcast, and thank you everyone for listening to this podcast. We'd be very happy to have you, Alibek, and share your future projects and experiences with us in future. And we'll be very happy to collaborate with you in future. And it was mind blowing recording this podcast with you. You are having a definitely great thought process, and definitely have a great mind, and you are definitely doing an incredible job in the community. Keep up doing the good work. Thank you.